All right, we're live on YouTube, and we're getting ready to go live on Facebook Live any second. Now, it takes a little while sometime. I don't know why that is. Still waiting, ladies and gentlemen, in YouTube land. There we go. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, moms and dads, children of all ages, and welcome to Living on a Thin Line with Tony Vicich. I am Tony Vicich. We are coming to you live today from the home offices in the beautiful, idyllic community of Arizona. We come to you every day at 2 p.m. our time. What time it is where you are, that's your responsibility. We come to you every day at 2 p.m. We are your daily distraction from all the anger, anxiety, weirdness, and hoopla in the world today. We come to you on 3 platforms. Let me tell you what they are. They are ComedySchoolsRadioNetwork.com. They are YouTube Comedy Schools, and they are Facebook Live. We build the show around 3 main tent poles. Tent poles, my friend.
Once you said one.
Tent poles. And they are your questions and comments that you leave on the aforementioned social media sites. They are also some knick-knack or doodad or autograph or memorabilia or curiosity we have laying around here in the home office that we share with you and try to weave a story around. And then we recommend either 1 or 2 artists or pieces of music based on our vast vinyl album and CD collection. We're going to put a heavy emphasis on that today. So anyway, that's it. Not a whole lot to explain to you about what's going on in the last 24 hours. Things are things are crazy all over. I saw where one Tucker Carlson, whose own network, argued in court that no one should take him seriously. It's not really a news show. That nothing he says should be considered to be factual, claiming that he had the dirt on Hunter Biden. Oh, the dirt. You know what's cracked me up? Can I tell you what's cracked me up? So many of, I've got a lot of friends, or I know a lot of people. And as the years have gone by, sometimes the people that you ran around with when you're young change when you get older. And a lot of them are Trump supporters. But a lot of them watch Fox News. But a lot of them used to drink and drug and dance all night. A lot of my now conservative friends, no gym tomorrow night, Friday and Saturday. Jim Perry, my partner at comedy at JP's Comedy Club, jpscomedyclub.com, just put up a question right here asking if I was coming down to the club tonight. I will not be there tonight. I was there Monday and Tuesday. I will be there this Friday and Saturday doing sets as I try to tune up for a whole new hour that I want to then commit to tape for the first time in decades. So many of my friends who are now conservative used to drink and dance and party hard all night. And they're making all this kaflooey over supposed pictures of Hunter Biden high. You know, and a couple of them went, dude, I think I got a picture of you someplace that's worse than that. The hypocrisy is quite stunning, isn't it? Anyway, little Tucker Carlson claimed last night that he had the dirt on Hunter Biden, that documents were being mailed to him, and then they got lost in the mail. So, little Tucker, who I think probably wears shorts and penny loafers with no socks when he's sitting at that desk. And I used to like him better when he had a bow tie on. He looked like he was 9. He claimed that these documents were lost, and now the documents have been found. So I guess tonight he will have the explosive dirt on some documents that have now been floating around between New York and LA and FedEx offices and UPS offices and Ukraine and Russia and Vladimir Putin's desk. And he'll present them tonight. And, he has one of the most watched news hours. And boy, news is not really a thing we want to attribute to him. One of the most watched cable news, as far as Fox, MSNBC, CNN, one of the most watched. And yet his own lawyers went to court and said, he's not really, he's just a goofball. He's just a little hoo-ha head. So we'll see what happens with that. That's probably been the big news in the last 24 hours. Much is made about the huge rallies that Donald Trump has, the audiences that he is able to bring to him live. And then they try to make much of the smaller rallies, smaller groupings, smaller gatherings, safe social distance gatherings that Joe Biden has. And there might be a couple of reasons for that. Probably a lot of Joe Biden supporters have jobs. They work. They're not making a living. Man, I'm running that in my own community here where I work from home. Although if I do it right, it doesn't have to be 8 hours a day what I do. It has to be X amount of hours a day. But I'm able to, spend time with my wife and spend time with my grandkid and go to lunch and walk the dog and still do that. But I still have to work every day. But there's people in my own community who are just retired, at home, staring at Facebook, waiting for somebody to say something so they go, nee, 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 nee. So here's my take on the large rallies Donald Trump has and the small rallies that Joe Biden has. If you go to a WWE event, a wrestling event, which is totally fake and just all drama, are those guys muscular? Are they strong? To take up a certain amount of skill to be able to do the acrobatics they do on stage and make it even look semi-real? Yes. But it's a show. It's like a bunch of stuntmen who didn't have any movie work. And they'll get large audiences for that, and it's fake. Then there'll be an actual karate tournament, Kempo, Shotokan, other forms, an actual real karate tournament between people who have a special deadly skill. And it's really small audiences, tiny audiences. See, reality oftentimes does not get the big pop and sizzle that fiction does. So that's my take on that. Hey, but if you want to see something that is real and fake, there's a comic, and his name is John Gregory. And in my mind's eye, he's one of the funniest guys. And anyone who's watching can tell him I said this too. Jonathan Gregory is one of the funniest guys in the country, but I agree with Henry B. Henry B. is the guy who has called him out as a punk. And I've got a lot of sympathy, Jonathan, for Henry B. But Jonathan, I'm stirring up trouble here if you haven't noticed, if you're not inside baseball. Jonathan's going to be at JP's Comedy Club tonight for one show, Friday for two shows, Saturday for two shows, 7 p.m. tonight, 7 and 9 Friday and Saturday. Tickets only $15. If you're looking for something to do in a safe, socially distanced live experience, let me highly recommend JP's Comedy Club. It's a really fun evening to go out to, and Jonathan is a comic you will sincerely enjoy. So I just thought I'd bring that up. Let's get to the stuff, shall we? Let's get to the stuff. So what I got in my hand here is a comic book, and it's called World's Finest. Yeah, World's Finest. And anybody who is my age or thereabouts recognizes that artwork. That is classic Superman. Superman's artwork did change over the years as different artists were involved, but that's pretty much, if you take a good look, that's the guy that we grew up with. Now, as I got older, this particular comic book came out in 1975. DC Comics, 1976. DC Comics salutes the bicentennial. This comic cost 30 cents. It featured Superman and Batman. And it also features why, for a long time, Superman had fallen off in popularity. And I'm trying to look. I had bookmarked something here. I guess my bookmark came out, and that's unfortunate. Let's see if I can find it here. Why Superman started falling off with so many people. No. Can't find it. What?
So that's actually at low battery. So I say after that you should probably tell about the story of all that stuff and then
story of all that stuff.
Story about
my grandson is now telling me
the comic book, and then I say you should try to wrap up.
Oh yeah. And why is that?
Because her computer is at 7%.
Gotcha. Well, she should be plugged in. Okay. All right. Talk to me about a little. So here's the reason why Superman started to fall off. I'm going to share this panel right here. Okay. There it is. All right. So let me read what the panel says. This now begins a desperate search across the endless reaches of the universe as Superman, moving at incredible speed, visits countless worlds seeking the telltale matching metal. So there was some metal that he needed. And that, in a nutshell, is why Superman, for a long time, lost a massive amount of popularity to and DC Comics to the Marvel Comics, because they were too perfect and too powerful. Superman, by that point, a matter of fact, when I was even a kid reading them in the 60s, had gotten to the point where he was such a do-gooder and so clean-cut and so rigid and had so many powers that he was boring. Boring. Superman had become boring. Where someone like Spider-Man, a kid who didn't even want those powers and felt a little cursed with them, same thing with the Human Torch, the Thing and the Fantastic Four, only wanting to be back to being a normal guy, much more resonated with the anxieties and insecurities of young boys who buy comic books. But anyway, that being said, it's great artwork. It's great nostalgia. In 1976, the last thing I was doing was reading comic books. But by God, even when I find one from the 70s, reminds me of being a kid sitting in my room. I sit in my room. My parents would go, go outside and do something. And I went outside to find a tube of airplane glue, and the rest, as they say, is history. So you got a kid sitting inside reading comic books, let him, or he'll end up on dope. Okay, let's get to the music. Now, here's an album that we're going to feature right now. Not necessarily because of the album itself, but here it is. This is Honky Tonk Heroes by Waylon Jennings. Honky Tonk Heroes by Waylon Jennings. Why are we featuring this today? We're featuring this because the great genius unsung songwriter who wrote every one of the songs on here except for one was one Billy Joe Shaver, who passed away, I believe, yesterday at the age of 78 or 81. He will not be heralded by many. There will be no big parades. There'll be no big specials done about him.
Billy Joe Shaver.
What's that?
He died yesterday. You probably already said that.
Yeah, he died yesterday. How did you know he died yesterday?
My dad told me.
Your dad told you.
Yeah,
that's right. My grandson Sullivan's father, by the way, Vince Ramirez, is one of the best drummers in Arizona. Is with a great band called Flathead and loves much of the same music that I do as well. Billy Joe Shaver passed away. Billy Joe Shaver was probably the most important man in the outlaw country music scene. He wrote an album called Honky Tonk Heroes that was recorded by Waylon Jennings. And this album, every one of the songs is a gem, and every one of the songs was written by Billy Joe Shaver. Honky Tonk Heroes, Old Five and Dimers Like Me, Willie the Wandering Gypsy Me, Low Down Freedom, Omaha, You Asked Me To, Ride Me Down Easy, Ain't No God in Mexico, Black Rose, and We Had It All. And I think We Had It All is the only song that he hadn't written. This is a guy who was mentioned in a lot of the music. I was listening to a Chris Christopherson album decades ago, and he's going, I'd like to dedicate this song to Dennis Hopper and Billy Joe Shaver, Funky Donnie Fritz. So he was around every musician in the outlaw scene, what was not yet the outlaw scene, but was soon to become the outlaw scene. Loved Billy Joe Shaver.
He died of old age.
He died of old age. We've just been informed that he died of old age. Been involved with it, and he wrote some of the greatest records ever. Just Honky Tonk Heroes alone would have been a gift unparalleled to the musical universe. But my particular favorite on here is Old Five and Dimers Like Me. There's also Willie the Wandering Gypsy and Me, which of course was about Billy Joe Shaver and our Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson. And of course, Low Down Freedom and Omaha. All these songs were hits. He wrote other great hits too. He wrote Fast Train to Georgia, which has got one of my great all-time favorite lyrics in it, where the singer goes, I got a good Christian raising and an 8th grade education, and I ain't going to be treated this way. I've been on a fast train to Georgia. So, he captured something. He captured the feeling of the lower middle class, white population, working class at a time when the America that we grew up in was slipping away. The America of big cars with big fins and big tires and drive-in restaurants was slowly beginning to give away to a different America, the one that was a service technology oriented, and the steel mills were closing down, and the family farms were being bought up by large farm conglomerates. And slowly but surely, that America from the first half that reached its zenith in the 50s was beginning to slip away in the 70s. And for those of us growing up in it, who then graduated from high school and either didn't have the wherewithal to go to college or decided not to go to college and decided to step out in the world, those factories were closing, not opening. Those farms were disappearing. Those jobs were going away, and the accoutrements of the towns, the buildings and stuff were changing and going away. People were moving out of the center. The center did not hold, and there was a certain feeling of loss. What Jimmy Carter himself called a spiritual malaise, which he actually got from a conservative writer. So he captured the feeling of us during that time. Those of us that consider ourselves hippies, those of us who were listening to the Grateful Dead and Iron Butterfly and Led Zeppelin and the Byrds, that still grew up around country music and wanted to like it, but people who listened to country music hated us. He was one of the people who began to create country music for the new era. And man, did he capture it. Did he capture it. So rest in peace, Billy Joe Shaver. I always loved your music. This particular album, how did I hear about this particular album? I was living in a trailer in High Ridge, Missouri. I believe, is where I was at the time. Could be wrong. Could have been living in a river cabin in House Springs. And a buddy of mine knocked on the door, a guy named Sam Moffett, and opened up, and he just stood there with his album in front of his face and goes, Vicich, this is us. This is us. And he goes, you got to listen to it. We sat down, put it on, and immediately fell in love with it. This is before the explosion that came out of the sampler album Outlaws, Wanted the Outlaws, with Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Billy Joe Shaver, Tom Paul Glaser, etc. Before that album solidified that movement, we caught it right as the wave was beginning. So we're putting up the song, Old Five and Dimers Like Me. It's a tearjerker. It's a cry in your beer song. It is a, oh, woe is me. Oh, it is in that when people make fun of country music about, oh, my truck broke down and my dog died. It's that, only it's real, and it's wonderful. So, you know what? I think that's all I got for you today. Abhinav Goyal said, what is honky tonk? That's a big question, Abhinav. That's a big question. Honky tonk is a style of music. It's also a nickname given to a certain type of bar, certain sort of rough bar, not a sawdust on the floor particular, not a rough joint, but a place where country music is played, usually populated by men who are not drinking to party, but to drink their worries away. And then after a while, maybe a band kicks in, and then people kick their feet up and forget even a little more. Honky tonks. It was the name of a type of bar, usually a sort of country or rural bar. Anyway, I think that's all I got for you today.
Wait.
What? Hold on. I'm being told wait by one of the producers.
You forgot the story about the comic books. You said you would do it today.
The story of the comic books. How comic books began?
Yeah, it's a quick one.
It's a quick one?
It's a quick story.
Do you know the story?
You told me, but I forgot about it.
Oh, my grandson Sullivan wants me to tell you the history of comic books. So, interesting thing about comics. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it. Interesting thing about comics is that there was always some sort of cartoon. Before pictures were taken, there were drawings. And then newspapers in America, there were drawings of events. And then there was opinions that were then sometimes drawn out in little one-panel scenes in newspapers. And those became the earliest cartoons in America. They were political. When later on, there was 3-panel cartoons in newspapers. Newspapers had certain sections. They had the news, sports, the funny papers, and there were little 3-panel cartoons. Blondie, Andy Cat. One of the earliest one was the Katzenjammer Kids. The story goes that a lot of Eastern Europeans coming to America learned how to speak English, read English by reading the comic books. So by the early 1930s, the actual comic book, like this, began to form up. Something separate from a periodical, a magazine, a newspaper, and just a free standalone comic. In a way, the stand-up comedy boom actually mirrors comic books. Stand-up comedy was something that's done within a large group of things, vaudeville or burlesque, and then became its own freestanding business. Comic books, comics. We started out with everyone, and then somehow we're all kicked out and we stand apart. So some of the earlier comic books, of course, were Superman, and of course in the 1940s as a propaganda tool, but one that was much needed to give people hope and faith through World War II. Captain America and Wonder Woman. So that's the history of comic books in a nutshell. I think I've covered a lot in this half hour. I hope you enjoyed it. Okay. I will be at JP's Comedy Club this weekend, Friday and Saturday, probably for the second show, for the late show, 9 o'clock. If you ain't got anything to do and you got a mask, if you got the mask, we got the hand sanitizer. You come on down. You'll catch a great show. Bunch of great young comics, me, Jonathan Gregory, all of us. Until then, my friends, bye-bye.